Hello everyone, and welcome. Today I'll be showing you guys how to make a passive drake farm in the mountain biomes using these, my newly developed monster lures. These lures are very versatile and I'm actually super excited since I'll definitely be using them in other builds in the future as well. This is especially true for the Mosquito trap that I made in the past, since this new tech has triple the effective range. What they do is pretty simple. They have an attraction range of 30 meters in all directions, and any creature that comes within this range suddenly becomes very curious and moves in closer to investigate. Forever. That is, unless you're a creature that has bad hearing, like a neck for example, which can only hear things up to 20 meters away. Now, time for Grandmama's secret sauce. The key which makes these new lures work as well as they do. Inside this tower, you have got one live leech, together trapped with two hens. This isn't because I enjoy torturing either of them, but rather to do with the generation of sound. Within the world of Valheim, there are a few things that generate sound at different levels, and one of them is running. Running produces a noise level of 30, which means enemies within a 30-meter radius are able to hear that noise and will come closer to investigate. This also happens to count for creatures, including passive creatures, like these hens, and not only players. So by adding a leech in here, we put our hens into a panic state, causing them to run indefinitely, producing an infinite sound loop, which in turn attracts monsters within the 30-meter radius around our tower. I also just happened to discover that when leeches are removed from water, they stop attacking completely, and instead try to get back into the nearest body of water. So even though they are completely freaking out our chickens, they are in no real danger at all. To make a passive drake farm with one of these, we will need the following resources. One live leech. We'll need one live leech per tower, for which we will need the abyssal harpoon. That will cost you 8 fine wood, 30 chitin, and 3 leather scraps, and a cart to transport them with, which will cost you 20 wood and 10 bronze nails. 5 pufferfish as our killing method, since I didn't want to build something that uses fire that'll need maintaining over time. You can simply catch these with the fishing rod in the oceans, they are practically everywhere, by using misty bait, for which you will need 20 regular fishing bait combined with 1 lox trophy, 2 eggs that we'll need to hatch once we've built this tower, 5 item stands, which will cost you 4 fine wood and 1 bronze nail each. And then to build the body of the tower, carry at least 1 stack of wood on you and at least 5 stone to build a fireplace. So if you've already got your harpoon and cart ready, you will need 5 pufferfish, 2 eggs, 5 bronze nails, 20 fine wood, 1 stack of regular wood, and 5 stone. The next thing to consider is location. I recommend choosing a smaller mountain where you've already confirmed drakes are spawning. Drakes will always spawn passively near the summit of the mountain, so we want to reduce the size of the area where they can spawn. Ignore those spawns around nests, since those are one-time only spawns. If this was my survival build, I would build my mountain base on that side there, and then I would build my drake farm on the opposite end, right over there. Then, to further limit spawns, as you'll see here, I've placed some campfires around the outskirts, which, by the way, prevents spawns in a 20-meter radius, to further narrow down the possible spawn locations, so they spawn as close to the farm as possible and get sucked in. The other thing to consider is that passively spawning drakes have a mob cap limit of 2 per zone, and the zone is 64 by 64 meters. So since you can only ever have 2 drakes alive at a time in one zone, the bigger a mountain is, the harder it is to ensure they spawn in range around our farm. If you're still uncertain about how or where to build, then here's something else for you. Let's say for a moment this is you. Within a 40-meter radius around a player, no new passive creature spawns are possible. And then between 40 and 80 meters away from the player, this is where new creature spawns occur. So based on these measurements, You want to build these towers between the 40 to 80 meter zone away from you or your base, where new spawns can occur. And if you are building multiples, build them within this range so they slightly overlap. Okay, so that was a lot of jibber jabber. Now let's get to the build. First off, we need to get our leech. This is by far the hardest part of the build, since I'm dragging a leech all the way up a mountain, like a normal person. To do this, we harpoon leech, and then we drag them as far away from any sources of water as possible. Then, we simply log out, and we log back in. What this does is this effectively breaks the mental of our leech, making them forget about any nearby water sources, rendering them immobile. Have you guys ever wondered what a sad leech looks like? That there is what one looks like. Everything else will also try to kill our leech, so we need to protect them by killing any wolves or drakes, up until they are safely enclosed in the structure. Now let's build our tower. It's extremely simple, so just follow along as you see on screen. Build some temporary stairs so that we can yoink our leech up there. Add some walls and some flooring as the roof. Now we add our 2 eggs, and then we add a roof tile above them so they'll stay warm so they can hatch. Remove our temporary stairs since we won't need those anymore, and then we add a fireplace to provide heat for the eggs. Let's add our permanent stairs so we can actually get up there, and then next we'll need to wait for the eggs to hatch. Our little fuzzballs have arrived. Now we can remove the roof tile and then close off the structure. Now we add 2 1-meter poles and 2 2-meter poles, so we can raise our item stands. Item stands go right on top, after which we'll be adding our spiky little friends. Then we add one more item stand underneath the structure to take care of any wolves that come sniffing around. And afterwards we destroy the campfire and the crafting table, so we don't spawn-proof the area, otherwise nothing will spawn around the structure. And there it is. So that is what one of these towers should look like. Now I'm just going to go stand over here and wait for a drake to spawn to make sure that it is working. It's been about 10 minutes and there we have it. Our first customer has arrived. One more thing I should mention that you guys should know about is that when enemies take damage like this, they have about a 50% chance to flee. So they won't always die exactly on top of this tower. Instead, the loot might be scattered around the area. And also, since we have got no player-based structures around, like, campfires or crafting tables and all that good stuff, the loot will despawn after 1 hour. So you'll want to check every hour or so if there is any loot, otherwise it'll despawn. It can take quite a while for drakes to spawn, so I strongly recommend that you build yourself a base in the area, or have something else to keep yourself busy. Otherwise, you'll be bored out of your mind if you're just sat there waiting for drakes to spawn. And with all that done, this is me, Zerger, saying thank you so much for watching, have yourself a wonderful day, happy Valheiming, and goodbye! Cheers.